When H.G. met her. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and by her I of course mean Harry's wife. The Sugars. Dim-witted bunch, aren't they? How do we know that they're Sugars? Well, principally, it's because they support the Duchess of Sussex and do so in a way that exhibits a slavish devotion to mindfuckery. They ignore evidence that they typically come out with a range of behaviours which identify them as being Sugars. One is that they repeatedly fail to spell her name correctly, often her first name, sometimes her surname as well. Secondly, they bandy around the accusation of racist like it's going out of fashion. Thirdly, they will make references to her being brave and beautiful and amazing, even though the evidence is to the contrary. Fourthly, they'll accuse you of being obsessed with her, or that you're jealous of her, or jealous of her and Harry, when of course they mean envious. And finally, they will invariably accuse you of talking or writing about somebody that you do not know. Commonly, they will allege, "Leave her alone, you don't know her. Stop talking about her, you don't know her." Unfortunately, for those dim-witted Sugars, I do. I can't say, of course, to have spent several years living with her. Lord, no, and I wouldn't choose that either. I would get bored so very, very quickly. But when they make the allegation that you don't know her, well, it doesn't apply to me. I know her because I've spent a lot of time analysing the evidence of her behaviour from a wide range of sources. Those sources, of course, include actual interviews of her. Those sources include interviews with her. They include masses of reportage about her behaviours, her visits, reading books that relate to her, the misfortune of having to grind through Finding Freedom, Spare, also the much better Revenge by Tom Bower, Valentine Lowe's Courtiers, amongst others. But I've also taken the evidence by which I assessed her and made the determination that she is a narcissist from not only a public range of materials and pieces of evidence, both film and written, but also from more private sources. I have my own contacts, although I don't reveal who they are in order to protect my identity. I have spoken to people that have had first-hand dealings with her, that are involved with her as a consequence of their own positions. Some of those individuals operate within the palace. Some of those individuals have had dealings with her in the entertainment industry. Some of those individuals have had dealings with her as a consequence of her philanthropic ideals. I've spoken to them, and I did so way back when, as part of the assimilation of evidence. I also, of course, have relied upon my own experiences of actually having met her. So when the Sugars squeak and cry out that you don't know her, it turns out to be a lot of nonsense, because we do know her. We know her, one, because of the massive evidence that has been analysed, two, by understanding that she's a narcissist. That provides a huge amount of insight into the thoughts, actions, and behaviours of that individual. That's why learning from me is so important, because once you do, and you know the various ways that a narcissist will function, operate, and behave, it affords you magnificent insight into many aspects of understanding the way that the world works. With Harry's wife, I met her on a number of occasions. I met her in person. It enabled me to evaluate her as a consequence of my interaction with her. When it comes to people, I have an innate ability to assess them and understand them in a short space of time. Part of that is done because I just have this ability to draw in information about individuals to make that assessment of them. I see it as linked to my psychopathy. Part of it is also linked to my narcissism in terms of evaluation of potential threats to control. That in effect, I'm always scanning, for want of a better description, those around me to ensure that they're under control. And in so doing, I pick upon various signals of people's behaviour, which is indicative of what they are, which then translates into whether they are under control or not. Part of it's also as a consequence of the training that I've had, that enables me to very quickly evaluate a situation, make decisions based upon that information, and come to an exact outcome in terms of the steps that I need to take in order to preserve myself and certain assets. Accordingly, I've become very skilled at analysing and assessing people, understanding their behaviours, what people want, what people need, what people desire, what people fear. And that, of course, all aids me in my control of them. It also means that in a short space of time of meeting somebody, talking with them, seeing how they react, sometimes posing certain questions of them for the purposes of provoking a reaction to aid my assessment of them, in a way probing them to gain more information, I can ascertain, am I dealing with a narcissist? Am I dealing with an empathic person? Is the individual before me a normal? And thus, through my interaction with Harry's wife, I was, at an early juncture, able to make my assessment as to what she was, and then this was supported further by the mountain of evidence that I then embarked upon by way of my own analysis of all of that. When I met her, I was able to assess the way that she looked at me, the way that she interacted with me, the things that she was talking about. I was able to assess the way that she was interacting with other people that were there in relation to me. I was able to assess the coquettish look that was sent in my direction on more than one occasion, the mild flirtation that took place as she attempted to draw me into her world, as one would expect with a narcissist, although, of course, she failed. I was able to analyse the way that she took my hand, the way that she presented herself, the topics of conversation that she put forward. And what I'm going to share with you in a multi-part series are the instances of when I met her, the occasions when I physically met her, the circumstances of that, and what I gleaned from those interactions to help you understand how I am able, alongside, of course, the massive evidence that exists, but to demonstrate what the in-person interaction with her confirmed and told me about her narcissism. Not only is it interesting to you as a recollection of the meetings itself, but moreover, it's an excellent educational tool for helping you understand more about the way that a narcissist behaves. And also, of course, bearing in mind that this was a situation of narcissists colliding, a middle mid-ranger colliding with the ultra. Of course, we all know who's going to win that clash, but nevertheless, it's a fascinating and compelling account of what went on between the two. Accordingly, join me very soon for this forthcoming series that I wanted you to be alerted to so that you can ensure that you keep an eye out for it. Because typically of YouTube, you may not receive notification of each and every video. And I know so many of you are keen to understand more about these meetings that I had with her. And so if you haven't done so already, please ensure that you've subscribed to this channel. Double check that, because YouTube has a habit of unsubscribing people. Make sure your notifications are turned on. And most importantly of all, keep checking back here each day, because fresh content is posted on a near daily basis, so that you can keep an eye out for this series of important, compelling and fascinating videos about when HG met Harry's wife. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.